If you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. In NASCAR, that's practically a job description. But every few years, a team doesn't just bend the rules. They fold them in half, light them on fire, and hand the ashes to a NASCAR official with a smile. Today, we're covering 7 of those moments. This is the modern era's version of that insanity, the kind of stuff Smokey Yunick would have tipped his hat at. Because some of these tricks were so incredibly smart, NASCAR had to literally rewrite the rulebook the next morning. Let's do this. Bobby Allison Bumpergate, 1982 Daytona 500. It's lap 4 of the 1982 Daytona 500. Bobby Allison taps Cale Yarborough going into turn 4. The contact is minor, barely a love tap by Daytona standards, but suddenly, Allison's rear bumper peels off the back of his Buick Regal and goes pinwheeling across the track, triggering a 5-car pileup. Here's where it gets interesting. The moment that bumper is gone, Bobby Allison's car is dramatically faster. He goes on to lead 147 of the remaining 196 laps. He's so fuel-efficient running without the bumper that he stretches his final tank further than any other car in the field. Cale Yarborough, who finishes 23 seconds behind, nearly half a lap, is furious. Yarborough's crook chief, Tim Brewer, doesn't mince words afterward. That bumper was designed to come off. You take the rear bumper off a car and it picks up more speed. Maybe it was set to come off. The theory: Bobby Allison's team mounted that bumper with hollow bolts or thin wire, just enough to survive inspection, engineered to separate cleanly under race conditions. No bumper means reduced aerodynamic drag on the back end of the car. Less drag means more speed. Less fuel burned, more laps between pit stops. NASCAR's chief technical inspector, Gary Nelson, who later spent years trying to catch cheaters himself, did a full teardown, found nothing provably illegal. Bobby Allison's victory stands to this day. Bobby Allison denies it, Gary Nelson denies it, nobody can prove a thing. But Cale Yarborough, who won at Talladega the same year without a rear bumper, that was apparently just aerodynamics. Bobby's was also just aerodynamics. Sure it was. Darrell Waltrip, the evidence bomb, 1985. The year is 1985. NASCAR has just invented the All-Star race, the Winston, first one ever. A 70-lap shootout at Charlotte Motor Speedway. 12 cars, $200,000 winner-take-all. Darrell Waltrip shows up in Junior Johnson's number 11 Chevrolet, and it is clearly, obviously, visibly faster than everything else on the track. The whispers in the garage are immediate. Oversized engine, illegal displacement, something. Waltrip wins, takes the checkered flag, and the absolute second he crosses the line, his engine grenades. A massive plume of white smoke erupts from the exhaust. The motor destroys itself on pit road. No engine, no inspection, no evidence. Here's where the part Junior Johnson himself basically confirmed years later. That engine was designed by Junior's own hand to run exactly as long as it needed to. Junior machined the rods, the pistons, the crankshaft, all built to a specific tolerance that would carry the car through practice, qualifying, and 70 laps of racing. Not 1 lap more, not 1 lap less. He used his experience, DW said, to make that motor good for only as long as it needed to be. Whether that motor was legal? Nobody knows. Nobody could ever find out, because by the time NASCAR officials got there, what was left of it wouldn't fill a coffee can. Waltrip kept the $200,000, kept the trophy, kept the secret. To this day, 40 years later, DW won't say, just grins. That grin tells you everything you need to know. Jeff Gordon, the T-Rex, 1997. Here's the only car in NASCAR history banned for being too legal. In 1996, Rick Hendrick pulls together every engineer at Hendrick Motorsports, every crew chief, every chassis builder, and gives them one assignment: build the ultimate race car. But the catch, it has to pass every rule in NASCAR's book. Go through that rulebook page by page, find every gray area, push every single one. Engineer Rex Stump goes to work. The frame rails go bigger, the floor pan gets raised a ½ inch to create negative pressure under the car, ground effect aerodynamics straight out of IndyCar. The chassis is stiffer, the weight distributed lower, shocks moved outside the frame rails, every movable part optimized. They call it the T-Rex, after the Jurassic Park paint scheme Jeff Gordon ran that weekend. And it's appropriate, because this thing was a dinosaur killer. Gordon qualifies, overshoots his pit box, and starts from the back of the field, from 19th. It doesn't matter. By the end of the race, the T-Rex is nearly a second faster per lap than the entire field. Gordon wins $1 million and pulls into tech inspection, where a NASCAR official pulls Ray Evernham aside. "Mr. France wants to see you." Bill France tells Evernham to call Rick Hendrick and tell him the car is illegal. Evernham refuses. It passed inspection. Every rule in the book, legal. France's response, "Don't bring it back. We're rewriting the rules." Between the Winston and the following week's Coca-Cola 600, NASCAR inspectors spend days at Hendrick Motorsports tearing the T-Rex apart. They can't find a single violation, so they write half a dozen new rules specifically to outlaw what it was doing. The car runs in the Brickyard 400 later that year, heavily disguised, with most of the modifications removed. It finishes 4th, in its original form, undefeated. It sits in the Hendrick Motorsports Museum today, the only car NASCAR banned for being too good at following the rules. We're halfway through, and things are about to get a lot more modern, because what Chad Knaus pulled at the 2006 Daytona 500 is one of the most audacious moves in the history of the sport, and he still walked away with the win. Chad Knaus and Jimmie Johnson, the invisible window. 2006 Daytona 500. Chad Knaus was, without question, the most creative crew chief of the modern era, and he proved it before the 2006 Daytona 500 had even started. After Jimmie Johnson's car went through qualifying inspection, NASCAR officials discovered something that shouldn't exist. The rear window on the number 48 Hendrick Chevrolet had a track bar adjuster that could also adjust the rear window. Slightly, subtly, enough to change the airflow over the back of the car at 190 miles an hour in a way that no static inspection on the ground would ever catch. The aero effect is tiny. At Daytona, tiny is the difference between 1st and 5th. Chad knew that. NASCAR threw Knaus out of the garage, suspended him 4 races, fined him $25,000, and sent him home the week of the biggest race in the sport. Jimmie Johnson went out and won the Daytona 500 anyway. You want to know how good Chad Knaus was? He was so good at cheating that he got caught, got banned for the race, and still found a way to win. The car was already built, the setup was already in it, the work was already done. Knaus had 5 more Daytona 500s with Johnson after that, and every year the inspection crews stared at the 48 car like they were defusing a bomb. The Body Flex Era, the digital ghost. This is where the cheating gets genuinely sophisticated. As NASCAR transitioned into the high-tech era, so did the garage engineers. The Body Flex game, building aero panels that behaved differently at race speed than they did in the static inspection bay, became an arms race. Teams learned to build spoilers and rear fascia panels that would flex or deflect at speed in ways that inspectors could only catch by standing on them after the fact. That's not a theory. That's why NASCAR inspectors literally stand on rear spoilers today after races, a stiffness test that became standard procedure because teams were engineering panels to flex under aerodynamic load and return to spec on the ground. The logical extension: solenoid and magnet systems, hidden switches that could activate at speed. The concept circulated through the garage. The best cheating is the kind that never gets definitively confirmed. And the fact that NASCAR had to invent an entirely new post-race inspection protocol, physically standing on the aero parts, tells you everything you need to know about what was happening at 190 miles an hour that they couldn't see on the ground. The next-gen car didn't stop the arms race. It restarted it. Now we get to 2026, this recent week. These two happened so recently, the garage is still talking about them. The first one sounds insane. The second one might actually change NASCAR forever. Noah Gragson, Handgate, February 11th, 2026. Welcome to 2026, where apparently a driver's left hand can get him disqualified from the Daytona 500. For 2026, NASCAR added a new rule specifically for qualifying at high-speed drafting tracks, Daytona, Talladega, Atlanta. No touching the window net, no putting your hands near the window opening. Because drivers discovered that redirecting the high-pressure air entering the cockpit during a single-car qualifying lap could subtly alter the aerodynamic balance of the next-gen car. It sounds small. On a 2.5-mile superspeedway, where the difference between pole and 10th is measured in thousandths of a second, small is everything. During Daytona 500 qualifying, Noah Gragson's cockpit camera captures exactly what the rule was written to prevent: his left hand near the window net working the airflow. Time disallowed. Officially gone. Handgate becomes the first viral scandal of the 2026 season before the 500 even happens. And here's the wild part. The rule was added because NASCAR knew drivers were doing it. They added the rule because they couldn't catch it after the fact. The only way to enforce it was cockpit cameras on every car during qualifying. They were ready for it. They were watching for it. And it still happened. The Toyota Fuel Save Conspiracy. 2026 Daytona 500. And then the race itself. And this one isn't a mechanical cheat, it's a strategic one. And it might be the most controversial thing to happen at the Daytona 500 in the modern era. Mid-race, the Toyota organization, running multiple cars with a clear shot at the win, goes into fuel save mode. Bubba Wallace and Denny Hamlin slow dramatically, running side by side, effectively becoming a rolling roadblock at 185 miles an hour. The entire Toyota camp lines up nose to tail in a column that nobody can pass. They're not racing, they're managing fuel mileage and controlling the field. Ryan Blaney, 2023 Cup champion, does not hold back after the race. Just kind of got trapped with the Toyotas running 52-second laps, and they were blocking the whole thing. Tyler Reddick wins for 23X1 Racing, a Toyota car. The strategy works perfectly. Is it illegal? By the technical rulebook, fuel saving is part of superspeedway racing, but by the spirit of competition, it's manufacturer coordination executed at 185 miles an hour in front of 100,000 fans. And here's the context that makes this hit harder. After the 2024 playoff manipulation scandal, where radio transmissions literally caught Ross Chastain and Austin Dillon refusing to pass a teammate to keep him in the championship, teams fined $100,000 apiece. NASCAR promised rules were coming. Rules that would address manufacturer-level race manipulation specifically. Rules with teeth. Those rules exist now. Whether this Toyota strategy violated them is a question NASCAR was actively reviewing as this video was made. The garage is split, the fans are furious, and the question that's been hanging over superspeedway racing for a decade is louder than ever. Where does strategy end and race fixing begin? 7 incidents, from Bobby Allison's suspiciously fragile bumper to a hand in a window net. From an engine built to destroy its own evidence, to a car that rewrote the rulebook simply by being too good at following it. Smokey Yunick once said, "There will always be some guy who thinks of something a little smarter than the average cat." He was right. He was always right. The rules get tighter every year, the cameras get sharper, the inspection process gets more sophisticated, and every year, somebody in a NASCAR garage is already 3 steps ahead. That's the game. That's always been the game. And honestly, that's part of why we can't stop watching. Drop a comment, which one broke your brain the most? And if you want the legends, Smokey's genius methods, Junior Johnson's wheel weights, Richard Petty's extra cubes, let me know. We'll build that video next.